Follow me with your shape-shifting smiles, and I see you. Maybe they'll believe you. Illuminati, a curved dawn trial, silver discs and hidden files, and we see you. We've got to believe you. Blast off. Blast off. Blast off. Blast off.
Blast off, Wolfpack. Another epic day today. I'm kind of in a weird place. I lost somebody very close to me, a really good person, but life and death is a tough thing. Before we get into everything, if you haven't gone over to heroparanormal.com, please slide on over there. Tons of content over there. It'll take you right on over to the Patreon site. It's also a great place to blast off into the eBay store. And you can also purchase things like Spice Natural Bronze, the most incredible skin product I've ever come across. My wife designed it, created it, formulated it, brought it to market, has a warehouse full of it. Spice Natural Bronze, there is no other. There is no substitute. Tan as if your life depends on it, because it does. Your skin is the biggest organ in your body. Treat it well. Head on over to happinessmedical.com, buy a tube of Spice Natural Bronze. Tell me what you think. And all the proceeds go towards keeping this thing going. All right. Now, I just got something pretty wild. They just dropped the video of the fatal ICE shooting. And let me just say, it is not what people think.
Change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Whoa!
Let's play it again here.
We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Okay, so a few things are obvious here. They were asked to get out of the car. This has been under debate for a long time. People saying, oh, this was not warranted. There was no contact. They didn't run into anybody. Well, the body cam footage does show that that guy was knocked down. The other one engaged and, or at least knocked around. I don't know if he was knocked down, but knocked around. The other one engaged. You can't hit a law enforcement officer with a moving vehicle. That is considered a deadly threat, no matter how small. Not even a bump. And these guys allegedly had been training for this, which is very odd. Now, this is wild. I'm not going to get into what's right, what's wrong, but there's the body cam footage. Now, this is wild. If you're not entertained by the wildness of all this, I mean, talk about FAFO. Don't mess around. And the mayor of Minneapolis came out with dropping F-bombs, very trashy, in my opinion, statement on this whole ordeal, asking ICE to get the out of Minneapolis. I thought that was pretty jaw-dropping. Another breaking jaw-dropping, again, not to get political, but this is important. If you're not entertained yet, in a jaw-dropping announcement, President Trump disclosed that George Soros and Reid Hoffman are funding Antifa and the left-wing violence against ICE. The exact stuff we just saw. It's coming out that President Trump disclosed. He has information that George Soros and Reid Hoffman are actually funding these people. Keep in mind they were training for these types of ordeals. And Trump vows to launch a RICO investigation into George Soros. Trump stated they are going to have some problems. Pretty wild. Not everybody is pro-Trump. I get that. In fact, some of the former pro-MAGA people are now anti-Trump. In another breaking announcement, the former MAGA shaman, you remember MAGA shaman, the guy on January 6th? He's now running for Arizona governor. The individual widely known as QAnon Shaman, his real name is Jacob Chansley. He likes to go by the name Jake Angeli. He's announced his intention to run for governor of Arizona. Now, QAnon Shaman, a prominent figure in the January 6th, the U.S. Capitol attack, has turned against President Trump recently, along with a lot of other people. He is going to be running as an independent. And he was previously, obviously, a very adamant supporter of the MAGA movement. However, he now describes the Trump administration as a quote-unquote complete disaster or corrupt disaster. His candidate name on the ballot will be Jacob Chansley, in parentheses, Jake Angeli. Independent for Arizona, if you want to vote for the QAnon Shaman for governor. So things are entertaining. And people are wondering, after Marina Abramovic called Trump the ultimate chaos magician or the ultimate magician of our time, or one of the most amazing magicians, it's brought up the theory of egregores. If these things aren't egregores, ICE and Antifa fighting ICE and Antifa being paid to fight federal employees. Well, an egregore is an independent magical entity that has its own personality and whose existence is deepened on the group that created it. So if this is the case, if this is all an egregore using ICE to do this, then we have magic again occurring a lot like Kek. Remember the Egyptian frog god during the election of Trump? This, of course, sparked all sorts of things. And if you look closely at Kek, there is someone there who looks like a pharaoh on a computer doing mimetic magic, meme warfare, meme magic. And if this egregore is an independent magical entity on its own, with its own personality and existence, independent on the group that created it, then has it gone out of control or off the rails? People are claiming that this is a force, a magic, a MAGA, that cannot be stopped. Now, there's been a pretty cool image making the rounds of a rare top secret U.S. weapon known as the Wraith, used in the Maduro capture. This is a pretty awesome top secret U.S. weapon, an allegedly unmanned drone that looks a lot like a stealth bomber, just a smaller version of it. And this was allegedly used during the capture, and this was something that was flown in, and there are some images out there. I don't know if they're real or not, but they're very cool looking. Now, there is an image that I believe is real of the drop, the helicopter. I get it from a good source that this image is real and that Donald Trump had professional photographers on site taking images of the Maduro capture. I'm going to post that image up here. Tell me what you think. There it is. Does that image look real to you? It's almost too cool, right? But that's the image. That's the one they're claiming is real. It's pretty cool. And there is an image of the RQ-170 Sentinel stealth drone supported in the Maduro capture mission, the RQ-170, was made for just the kind of mission that occurred in Venezuela and was present overhead during others in the past. Now, the picture that I'm going to show of the RQ-170 was taken on Guam, and it is the only one to be officially released to date. I am going to, it's stunning. It's a stunning image. There it is. And apologies for the super low-tech stuff going on this morning, but a lot of this stuff is not transferring over to my computer for whatever reason. So I don't care if it's low-tech. I still want to show it. Now, Renee Good was the lady that was in that car with her lesbian lover that were barraging ICE. Obviously made a bad choice. And it's sad because she had children. She had 3 children, grew up in Colorado Springs. She had apparently turned lesbian. She was living in Minneapolis with her partner, who was reportedly on the scene, filming her and intentionally blocking ICE. Keep in mind that she is no longer with us because she was protecting dangerous gang members, illegal aliens, fraudulent Somalis, and others. I don't think she was a bad person. I really don't. But I think she made some bad decisions, and it's just too bad. Now, Russia has urgently evacuated Russian embassy staff from Israel. Weird, because this is the second country that's making moves against Israel. Remember, I talked about the Maldives and them banning. I don't know how they're going to do that, but banning and whatever's going on, this is wild that Russia would urgently evacuate Russian embassy staff from Israel unless they knew something was coming or they just don't want any ties. This is happening over and over again. Let's get into some paranormal stuff. I can't do the politics all day. Now, Billy Corgan is obviously from Smashing Pumpkins. He's had some interesting stories in the past, like being with a shapeshifter that he actually saw shapeshift, I believe a couple of occasions. And this was originally shared on air, on a radio interview. And he's doubled down on it. He's backed it up. So he's no stranger to a lot of the weirder paranormal elements. He's claimed that government officials have approached him to be involved in things that were just way above my pay grade. This is not unlike the stuff that Tom DeLonge has talked about, another musician. So he has his own podcast, The Magnificent Others, it's called. The musician was talking with writer and cultural commentator Conrad Flynn, and a conversation went pretty tinfoil hat, let's just say. This is what was said, and I quote, "Well, at different times I've been approached by elements of the U.S. government to be involved in things that were way above my pay grade. I've never talked about them in any depth publicly, but I've had experiences where I would find myself in a room with people and think, why are they talking to me? It was something out of like Eyes Wide Shut." What? So Flynn asked Corgan what was said to him in these secret, clandestine gatherings. And the guitarist was not in that of a divulging mood, but he said, "I'm not going to tell you because I haven't talked about it. I can certainly talk about it in I was there kind of way, but I'm not going any further than that." It's interesting that he would mention Eyes Wide Shut, alleging that these are experiences where he'd find himself with people in a room and that it was something like Eyes Wide Shut. He then compared the situation to something he's dealt with before. And he talks about that shapeshifter, which he originally did on air with Howard Stone years before. He said it's similar to when I talked about experiencing a shapeshifter on Howard Stern. And I quote, it became this thing where I was hunted in airports. Please tell me the shapeshifter story. All I can say is I've experienced supernatural things, he continued. And I've experienced things where I've had elements of the US government reach out to me because they somehow want to hook my influence, which is not that great, into whatever they're after. So having had personal experience like this, and of course there's lots of other insinuations, I would certainly say, sitting here quite openly, it seems very obvious to me that there are elements in popular music where people have been compromised knowingly because they were kind of offered a Faustian pact or a Faustian bargain. Of course, that's a deal with the devil, more or less. Pick door number 1, and we're going to push you to the moon. And if you don't, well, we'll find out, right? Find out soon. So he goes on to say, because in music, and this certainly is my area of expertise, there are people who are protected. They get every benefit of that protection. I know because I know the game. I've lived it. And there are people where they decide to press a button and throw them off the ship, he added. Right now, it might be because they're engaging in bad behavior, and we talked a little bit about that. But in other cases, I think just because they don't want to do the bidding that people want them to do. And this is wild, bringing up Hollywood Faustian pacts and Eyes Wide Shut parties, deals with the devil. I mean, pretty wild for him to bring this up. A lot of people have maintained this happens a lot. In fact, I don't doubt it for a minute. I've talked to people in depth about these things, and there is a gentleman that used to tour with the Wu-Tang Killer Bees. You may know him as Frank Castle. Great musician, absolutely great musician. You can find him online on YouTube. He's a hip hop artist. Currently, he's doing work with Sons of the Sun. But yeah, he toured, and he said that this was just him and many others I've talked to. Actually, I used to be somewhat involved in the New York hip hop scene, believe it or not, from a jewelry aspect. Back when I was consigning jewelry out of the Diamond District and bringing it out west. But yeah, there are these allegations that the hip hop world, the music industry, and others in entertainment are just aware of this, that this is just part of the deal, business as usual, and that it continues to this day. Let's move on. So, what else? Something else that's really wild, speaking of Russia and them removing allegedly all embassy people from Israel, the United States seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic, which everybody's wondering why. Now, this is following a dramatic week-long chase on the high seas. The operation to seize the sanctioned vessel, which changed its name from the Bella One to the Marinera after fleeing the American blockade in Venezuela last month, was carried out early on Wednesday. Now, this tanker, this sanctioned tanker, is it just an oil tanker, people are asking, or is there more going on? Now, let me just get into something a little bit out there, and that's the fact that this thing with Greenland, remember, Trump is saying that we should have Greenland. And I don't think there's any mistake about it, because Greenland is the ultimate prize in a hidden global game of strategy, resources, and esoteric secrets. You heard it here. I'll say it. Greenland is the ultimate prize. Let me tell you why. It has control of 21st century resources. Greenland possesses vast reserves of rare earth minerals, which are critical materials for all advanced technology and weapons systems. And I'm talking about drones, smartphones, electric vehicles, advanced missiles. It's also the ultimate Arctic fortress. There's more, though. This is all on the strategic side, the strategic flag point, as they're calling it. Flashpoint, I apologize. the strategic flashpoint of Greenland as a geopolitical prize, the ultimate prize, and a geopolitical earthquake. The U.S. has shifted from a speculative notion to a potential forced seizure, confronting notions to prepare for consequences of this active brinksmanship. They're talking about just taking over Greenland. Now, why? Norway has said that they will engage the United States if they try to do this. There has been a fracture within NATO in an unprecedented move. France and its allies are depleting, eroding contingency ions to prompt a potential U.S. server problem that is threatening to shatter the Western alliance. Now, if you add to that the ultimate Arctic fortress and a legacy of a lost civilization that used to allegedly be there, in some myths, many legacies or lost civilizations are pointed out to the North Pole as the homeland of an advanced civilization, the Hyperboreans, and with Greenland considered its physical remnant. There's also the planetary ice capacitor, that's right. People have claimed that there are ice capacitors. In other words, planetary ice capacitors. These theories propose that the vast ice sheet function as a planetary regulator, or capacitor to harness energy capable of disabling the Earth system, similar to Antarctica and the neutrino device, I suppose. And there's also the belief that this may be the planet's crown chakra if you're super new agey. And this is, in some planetary energy models, proposed that Greenland is seen as a primary global energy center. It receives cosmic frequencies and regulates global consciousness. Now, if it's a lost civilization, crown chakra, planetary ice capacitor, there's a lot going on. Not to mention the fact that it is well positioned, has tons of natural resources. And why on earth would Trump be so adamant about potentially getting his foot into Greenland? A lot of people have argued this, and I don't know the answer. I really don't. But I do know that a lot of people agree that it is important. Keep in mind that this tanker was seized up in the North Atlantic, up that way, right? That oil tanker, if that's all it was. So it's not all negative, really. I think there's been a lot of good stuff. I mean, Trump is absolutely the most based president we've ever had. I think the Venezuela Maduro thing will turn into a good thing. And I think there's a lot of other good things. I think Trump has proposed something that I believe in, which is term limits. He has proposed term limits, 6 years for House, 12 years for Senate, and that would remove 73% of Congress. I 100% support that. I think many of them are political career criminals. And I hate to say it that way, but the only reason I call them career criminals, they're not really criminals. These are good people. But what I mean is, when you have a political career, that you make connections with power players, it's just human nature that as those connections grow, there's favors for favors. Quid pro quo, tit for tat. It becomes a negotiation or a business deal. They're not real criminals. But the longer you're in a business, the better you get at it. And if it's that simple, and it's the business of politics, and we're talking about careers that span over decades, you can imagine what that can lead to. All right. This is a little random, but a witness to the Minneapolis U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement incident is torching the whole belief that this poor lady in this vehicle in Minneapolis was shot without reason. She's online, And she has said by her own account that the woman who was shot was leading the protest with a vehicle and intentionally blocking law enforcement, not an innocent bystander like some are claiming. She was the main car leading the protest. She was very successful in blocking the traffic, and that was her goal. She said, this witness said, this wasn't accidental. This wasn't confusion. She was deliberately impeding ICE vehicles. And from that video, I think I could agree. It's tragic what took place, but that's what happened. Now, I would say if you see ICE in your neck of the woods, don't get involved. These are federal agents. Federal agents that are armed. Federal agents that are going up against criminals. And some of these criminals are armed. They're prepared to engage. And so if you have a problem with them, take it on, I don't know, take it somewhere else. Talk to your friends, get a cup of coffee, talk about politics, save the world online, but don't get in the way. I don't think that goes over well, as we've seen. It's kind of sad and unfortunate, but it doesn't work. Something really cool that I read about Spaniards, giants, Nephilim, and Peru. That this is really cool. Conquistador Ciese de Leon, in his writings, has described stories of local giants. The first part was published in 1553 with a second edition in 1554. He claimed, tell me if this doesn't sound familiar with other giant stories in the Southwest, the Northwest, other areas of the world. Tell me if this doesn't sound similar. It sounds a lot like the Siteka, like the giants that we've encountered in Nevada, Utah, other places. Places I believe they existed and may still exist. There's evidence, too, in places like Brewer's Cave. Let's get into this. And, of course, Nevada. Okay. And I'm talking skeletons. We have skeletons, people. Believe it or not, they are there. Okay, so let's get into this. First part published in 1553. Second part published in Antwerp in 1554. First part was in Seville. But he goes on to say, these giant red-haired men arrived on barrel boats, terrorizing villagers and coastal communities. They built wells, they lived in isolation, and disappeared in a universal fire. Now, universal fire sounds wild. He didn't just pass this legend on through his writings. He described the villages, the ruins, the bones he'd seen in person. He also claims that many Spaniards, conquistadors, etc., found huge teeth. And there's illustrations. So, red-haired giants. If you've heard of the Lovelock Cave in Nevada, this is a place where it's possible that we have history of Siteka, red-haired giants, multiple rows of teeth. And if the Spaniard conquistadors are finding teeth, that might be because they had abnormal teeth. They had rows of teeth that seemed to just keep coming, and maybe they shed their teeth. I don't know. But it's possible. I don't think anything's off the table right now. Hey guys, it's Grifto time. If you haven't been over to HeroParanormal.com, please check it out. Smash that green subscribe button. I am extremely shadow banned. I need anybody and everybody to smash that green subscribe button. More content is over there as it's available. We can get into juicier stuff over there, and it just helps the podcast overall. Helps me get things done. Also, it helps pay for things like microphones, domains, web hosting, all these expensive subscriptions that you need to run a studio. Anyway, it all helps. This is the grifting session. If you haven't been over to HeroParanormal.com, please head on over there. Please smash that green subscribe button. Appreciate it. Okay, so I had to add that little grifto session because honestly, we're having crazy problems with my microphone. This is the second microphone I've had to replace recently. Hopefully, I don't have a gosh, forgive me. Hopefully I don't have to get a third. All right. Almost blessed myself there. So, 3 times is the charm, but I hope I don't have to do that. Excuse me. Wow, sneezing like crazy. All right. Where am I? Okay. Back to Maduro a little bit. They are alleging that there is a number of reports, allegations, confirming that the U.S. used a powerful mystery weapon, a direct energy weapon, a sonic weapon that brought Cuban soldiers, militia, mercenaries, security forces, and Venezuelan soldiers to their knees during the raid in Venezuela. Direct energy weapons are an interesting thing. I had a very good conversation with retired CIA agent Mike Baker out at Space Wolf Research, and we actually discussed a lot of the information having to do with these advanced technologies. And there's a lot to them. There's a lot to all of this. Now, these U.S. forces reportedly deploying a devastating sonic weapon during the operation to capture Nicolas Maduro. This is nothing new. I mean, if you remember John B. Alexander, the father of non-lethal weaponry, a man who worked at Skinwalker Ranch and for NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science, also, I believe, as a consultant with BASS. I could be wrong on that. I've met John B. Alexander. Very interesting individual with a very interesting history. But non-lethal weaponry in this particular case became devastatingly lethal. Let me explain. If we're using devastating sonic weapons during operations, weapons that are making people, there's a big if, weapons that are making people bleed out of their eyes, bleed out of their nose, bleed out of their ears, vomit blood, they can't very well defend themselves. And this is a new era of military. They also said that our soldiers had advanced weapon systems, that it seemed like they were firing 3, I forget the exact, they're basically nonstop. I mean, we have amazing weapons that can fire like machine gun ratios. Having an interesting question here. Yeah, these are questions regarding John B. Alexander. I can't answer those. I can tell you that they're slightly political in nature. So let me tell you what I can say. Yes, John B. Alexander lives in Las Vegas. Yes, I have met him. Yes, I have talked to him. Yes, he is the father of non-lethal weaponry. Allegedly, some call him Dr. Death. And yes, the question was asking if he was at a no-Trump anti-ICE rally. Yes, he was. I believe it was at Boca Park, not far from where I live. Yes, John Alexander is an anti-Trump guy. Regardless, it's important to point out that he has given a lot to the scientific community and definitely achieved a lot in the U.S. military. Okay, so let's get back on point. That's what I can answer. I can't get any deeper than that. Man, I just got these allergies. It's crazy. And there's a lot going on here with Nicolas Maduro. So witness accounts and allegations. He told me, I can't go into that. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so let me tell you what I can go into. So this allegation that U.S. forces reportedly deployed a devastating sonic weapon during the operation to capture Maduro, witness accounts said it was so powerful it left guards incapacitated and disoriented before they could even draw their weapons. They easily were mowed down. Also, it's saying that instead of 32 Cuban soldiers, that there were hundreds by the time you considered the Cuban militia, security forces, and the Venezuelan soldiers. So one witness alleges there was like 300 people. I don't know about that. Can't speak to that. One allegation is that it was not a bang, that it scrambled the brain. It was an invisible force turning the presidential palace elite security worthless. One local resident said it was a vibration that lived inside your skull. You couldn't breathe, you couldn't think, you could only surrender to the noise. So this is pretty wild stuff. Now, this is going to lead me into some stuff about Erica Kirk, actually, believe it or not. Erica Kirk, of course, has her hands full with all this Charlie Kirk expose taking place by people like Ian Carroll, Candace Owens, which I highly recommend checking both of their podcasts out because there's a lot of information there. I also highly recommend you check out George Webb Investigates. He's got a lot of important information, and it seems he's got receipts for them. So these questions are unavoidable getting into Erica Kirk. Let me explain why. A 10-year-old documentary on EMP attacks, which an EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapon, a direct energy weapon, this is along the same lines, right? This 10-year-old documentary has quietly resurfaced, and it talks about EMP attacks, U.S. power grid vulnerabilities, and a number of other things. But inside this documentary are the big questions, because allegedly it has Erica Kirk in a role that nobody expected. She isn't just somebody in the audience. She's not just there. She's not just observing. She's not hosting. She's not there with someone. No, Erica Kirk is actually briefing national security alongside a former CIA and national security and energy specialist. She is briefing national security professionals on how an EMP or coordinated physical attack could collapse our power grid systems. So it's not the usual for Erica Kirk. Kind of the type of stuff and information most civilians will never know about, even hear about, let alone be briefing national security about. So it's not casual footage. It's technical. It's super insider level. And the questions are unavoidable. So the questions are, why is she there? How is she there? How is she briefing national security? Why is it not explained? Who brought her in to the fold, quote unquote? Why was she in control of the entire room? And what qualifies her, allegedly, to brief on national security threats? This clip, I can't share. But allegedly, you don't know these days with coincidences and artificial intelligence. But everything else surrounding her is very odd right now, so it's definitely giving me a different feel. But it's something that you may hear about. The CIA documentary surfacing, showing Erica Kirk briefing on U.S. security threats. It's very interesting. We will have to see where the allegations go. Now, some exciting news is that if you haven't heard of Ben Woodruff, speaking of John B. Alexander and Skinwalker Ranch, if you haven't heard of Ben Woodruff, he's someone that's gone out to the ranch with permission. And he recently did a presentation on the biology of Skinwalker Ranch, January 10th. It was at 6 p.m. at the Hutchings Museum in Lehigh. He might be coming on to speak at events like the Moon Lake Gathering. So this is really exciting if true. Now, we'll have to see, right, where this all goes. Keep an eye out for that. I've always pitched the Moon Lake Gathering heavily, and I will continue to pitch it heavily. And speaking of the Uinta Basin, it's been on fire lately. I'm going to post some images that were captured just this week. Some of these images haven't even made the rounds onto social media. They're still secret. But some have made the rounds, specifically on the Space Wolf Research Facebook page. And this week, 2 of them anyway, a silver ball weaving behind cameras So the cameras that it's weaving behind, and I mean, it's a spot where there's like 5, 6 cameras set up on posts, and this thing is weaving between them at unbelievable speed. Luckily, I had another high-speed camera, 4K, that was able to capture it quite a distance away, or else we would have never seen it. I had Eric Mitchell say, man, good capture because these things move so fast, and they really do. I'm surprised we were able to capture it. Okay, sorry about the allergies here. Okay, so this is insane footage. Let me post this footage up now. Still images, just for the sake of time. I've got the silver orb images of them maneuvering through cameras, and then a darker image of like a darker, almost like dark object floating in front of the black box, one of the buildings at Space Wolf Research. And then I'm going to show the red glowing orb, which is completely brand new, never seen anywhere else. Here it is, broad daylight. Check them all out, and I'll be right back. Man, the Uinta Basin just never seems to disappoint. It's been so active, so insane. I've talked to people, Jessica Blunt, Sean Joslin, you name it. Locals all over the place. Arnie Gray, all kinds of people are seeing stuff. So, it's not just myself. It's not just Space Wolf Research, it's all over the place. As you know, the phenomenon does not know boundaries. People have brought up the fact, could this be technology? It could be technology. And we're not entirely sure if it's tech or not. If it's something otherworldly, something spiritual, something along the lines of an alien artificial intelligence, we don't know. Bottom line is we're going to continue to add it to our databases and study it. It's amazing. It's amazing. I have my beliefs. I'm not going to get into that right now, but let me get into another insane conspiracy. This is revolving around China. There's a researcher going around right now, Lei, an expert in Chinese finance. She was on the Danny Jones podcast, and this is the most insane conspiracy ever. She is claiming and alleging that China's population is actually around 500 million instead of 1.4 billion. Now, the reason China is important is they've been alleged to have technology over here, whether it's drones or small quote-unquote toys, maybe things like what we just saw in that footage. In fact, China, I've seen paperwork, and I've heard allegations that when we had this top secret black budget Pentagon project taking place at the old Bigelow Ranch, a property which Space Wolf Research shares a fence line with, I've heard an allegation that China reached out to the Pentagon saying, hey, we know what's going on out there. Can we study it with you? They denied any claims, allegedly. You know, we don't know what you're talking about. Stay away. No idea what tree you're barking up and what this is about. But at the time, we had a black budget Pentagon top secret project going on there. So this is an insane conspiracy theory. This finance expert is claiming that China's population is actually under 500 million. Now, we're always in constant fear about China, not only because we owe them money, but because we're scared their population is around 1.4 billion people. It's a lot of people to throw in a military force and throw at somebody. Now, this expert in Chinese finance is saying, alleging, that the real population is far lower than the official numbers, and that this can be shown just by basic birth rate math, not just the demographics, which she is also studying. She believes China's true population is under 500 million people. That's similar to the United States. Plus, maybe another large country, but not the 1.4 billion that the Chinese government is claiming. If this is true, then about 1 billion with a B, 1 billion with a B, folks are missing. They're just poof, evaporated. They're gone. Sure, there are some things in place that she is looking at and alleging are maintaining these higher numbers, but she suggests many people in the system might just be numbers on paper, not real citizens, fake IDs, fake entries in China's population database. This woman, Lei, this expert on finance, also alleges this math is part of China's official history. In other words, she says that in 1950, around the time of the Chinese Communist Party, at least when they took full control, China reported a population around 500 million. About 50 years later, around the year 2000, the official population was about 1.24 to 1.27 billion, which was roughly 2.5 times larger. So she believes this has been going on a while, this dog and pony show, that the official growth is not what it appears to be. And for it to be what it appears to be, people would have to have around 4.5 or 5 kids, which we know they don't in China. This could never have happened because China's real conditions are very opposite. There's not high fertility. There's not high growth. She also has pointed out several major inconsistencies and alleged that there are factors that would have reduced birth and increased death. Of course, we had the Great Famine in the 1950s. We have COVID, dare I say, if that was really as bad as the chaos shown. But in the 1950s and early 60s, tens of millions of people died due to the Great Famine. And later, we had the one-child policy. You remember that in China, where people were just having one kid? This would not be congruent with the theory of major reproduction, 4 or 5 kids per couple. So they've had... Now, this claim, I should point this out, is being highly criticized by mainstream media and others online. But I don't know. Maybe they are not the threat to be reckoned with, we have alleged they are. Something interesting. Now, I'm going to get into something a little bit spiritual here. This is a little odd to talk about. And it's something I'm going to include in the new book, but I haven't done it yet. I need to talk about it because it happened recently. And that is the fact I was woken up in the middle of the night. Now, I'm a strong sleeper. Nothing on. Thank goodness for the grace of God. I don't have any issues with like sleep paralysis, trouble sleeping. I sleep through the night, no problem. But I woke up the other night in just, anxiety-ridden form. I felt like there was something evil in the room. And I've talked to some researchers about this. Now, this is where things get weird. It felt so evil and so dark that I immediately hit my knees and prayed, and I came up with the only prayer I could think of, especially when it comes to alien abductions. It's maintained that if you ask these entities to leave in the name of Jesus Christ, they leave without question. And multiple abductees, contactees, people, experts, both theological and otherwise, have maintained this. So it felt so evil and dark in the room, just this horrible feeling. I felt that before, but this time it was really, really crazy. Nothing I can point to specifically that made me feel this way, but it was really bad. I dropped to my knees, I immediately started praying, and I asked that anything evil absolutely be banished from my presence and the home, the space I was in the name of Jesus Christ. Now, I normally wouldn't share this if nothing happened, right? However, right after I did that, the toilet started gurgling and bubbling unlike I've never heard it do this. It doesn't, no plumbing issues. But right after the prayer, the toilet just started bubbling and gurgling and making these amazingly ridiculous sounds. And then the space was cleared. It felt fantastic. Had to point that out because where I'm going to go now is a little bit interesting. And that is the danger of a lot of these people maintaining they're communicating with non-human entities. We don't know what they are. We don't know if they're demonic, angelic, anything in between, grays, right? Something in the gray area. But the danger of communication with non-human intelligence is not so much the danger of just communicating with them and having a conversation or entering a magical circle or a ritual space or whatever the case might be. But the danger is, like Nietzsche said, if you stare into the abyss long enough, eventually it stares back into you. Or more precisely, the danger of obsession. Communication with non-human entities has the possibility of becoming obsessed with the communication with non-human intelligence or entities. So this obsession, and when this obsession takes hold, the entity may not only influence the person and the person's mind, but might actually gain control or some sort of foothold into the person's body or temple or vehicle or vessel. Now, this has been written about. And there's a psychic self-defense book out there written in the 1930. And it's a study into occult pathology and criminality. And I'm going to get into why I'm bringing this up. Criminality. There's a danger. Here's the exact quote. I've got a question coming in. Yes, this is a real deal. I'm not lying about the dropping to my knees and praying. Real deal. I wouldn't bring it up unless I thought it was, serious. And I will go into why I'm bringing this up about the criminality. As many of you know, I am a believer there's a fine line between neurosis and possession. Okay, so Fortune D, 1930, Psychic Self-Defense, a study in occult pathology and criminality by Ryder and Company. The danger of any form of communication with non-human entities is the danger of obsession. The entity may not only influence the mind, but may actually gain a foothold in the vehicle of the personality. Stuff we've all talked about. Archetypes really are in what we're going to get into, but these entities, these non-human intelligences, these demons, if you want to call them, having the ability to enter a human and do what they want with the human. Hey guys, I need to take a moment to remind everybody because I've been asked, where do I get Spice Natural Bronze? Spice Natural Bronze, the amazing bronzer that my wife formulated, the lotion, the moisturizer, whatever you want to call it. You can get it at happinessmedical.com. Slide on over there. It'll take you to my little eBay store. You can purchase a tube for yourself, for your partner, for whoever. We've had a lot of return clients. I use this stuff every day. It keeps my skin looking amazing out here in this 100-degree heat in the Mojave Desert, super dry, and I somehow, I appreciate it. I never thought I'd come along and say, hey, I like putting this stuff on. It makes me feel good, makes me feel healthy, and more importantly, it keeps my face from cracking up, falling off my skull. But Spice Natural Bronze. You can get it at happinessmedical.com. Also, don't forget to head on over to heroparanormal.com. Smash the green subscribe button. Do me a massive solid. Smash that green subscribe button. There's free memberships available. You'll be basically part of the group that sees it all, gets all the information. You'll know what's happening. And I roll with all kinds of updates over there for patrons too. So please, please, please do me a solid. We got hats, books, t-shirts, you name it over there at the small eBay store. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get back to the cast. And it makes me wonder, we're seeing a lot of this in our society these days. In fact, just here in Las Vegas, there was a woman who decapitated her partner. A woman who used to work as a porn star. And this is in Vegas. I don't think this is all just in Vegas where this is happening. This is everywhere, right? But this former adult film actress named Devin Michaels got into it with her partner. Didn't just kill him, but cut his head clean off. So Devin Michaels was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to at least 28 years in prison for the decapitation and killing of her ex-husband. I apologize for my misspoken facts there. Ex-husband Jonathan Willett in his Henderson, Nevada home. So these details again lead me to neurosis / possession, that fine line. Where do people stop being people and when do demons take over? Prosecutors argued that Michaels committed the murder to start a new life with her current husband, who is, get this, Willett's son, her ex-husband's son. During the investigation, police learned that Michaels had remarried both men at different times, describing both as marriages of convenience. These are not my words, these are police words. Now, let's get to the conviction and sentencing. A Las Vegas jury convicted Michaels in November of 2025 after a 2-week trial. In January of 2026, a judge sentenced her to serve at least 28 years in prison. Authorities never recovered the murder weapon, or the victim's head, for that matter, which prosecutors allege Michaels took from the crime scene and discarded in the trash at her home. But this is an ex-adult film actress who killed her ex-husband, Jonathan Willett. And I mean, everything about this screams darker vibrational energy, right? And I'm not picking on this particular case. I mean, there's a number of cases. We just went over a case recently of someone, I mean, these dark crimes, right? So is there a danger of obsession with darkness? And can a dark entity envelop a human body and take it over? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure to some extent the human's in control, but at what point is the human out of control and a darker presence in control? That's the question. I don't know the answer to that, but there's something there. You know, there must be something there. I just don't know what it is. I don't know where it is. But that book, Satan, written by a Carmelite, which is 666 pages in French, that goes into it. You can find the book online in PDF format. I have an original from the 1950s, but it's spooky stuff. It's very spooky stuff, and I believe there's something there. That's where the interference syndrome and the psionics and all of these things begin to merge and make sense. And yeah, believe it or not, it merges with shapeshifters, with advanced dark adepts or witches that are able to create manifestations of animal creatures and make this appear as something it isn't. Now, I'm going to try up here, even though I said it's all parlor tricks. Let's go up here. You can see these street lights. I'm going to keep walking towards this street light on the corner, and we will see if I'm able to engage this street light. It's off at the moment. I will try to engage this street light and focus on it and see. It's behind me. I'll see if I can. It's off. See that? So I will try to engage it, even though there's cars around. Step under the street light, engage the street light, and see if it turns on. So the street light's off. I don't know if you can see it there. Barely a dim glow. So I will walk directly under it, try to engage it, and there it's on. See that? That would be an example of interference syndrome. And they're up and down the street, but they're all on. That one just happened to be off. It's on now, though. So it is possible. And even though I said these things are not parlor tricks, you can always show how they work. Well, anyway, that's interference syndrome. I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a very blessed night. Keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground, but don't forget to take a look around.
Esoteric Research Organization.
Hero paranormal, always setting up the pace, man. Crop circle tipping, Illuminati still tripping. Making those ears perk up, gonna make you question your earth. You better. Mystery bloodlines and secret society. Creepy shapeshifter says, come sit beside me. Yeah, cozy on up. So what's with all this spiral, acting like UFOs? Say what? So Bigfoot and Space Wolf tiptoe through the dark. Third eye blinding, tune in and blast off, blast off. Blast off, baby. Blast off.